3, 2, 1. And we're back. And I hate to be all I told you so, but John Walker is the worst, isn't he? I don't want to waste all my time talking about him though, because we met some really, really important characters in the second episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So without further ado, let's talk television. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name's Destiny Johnson, and this is Nerd News with Destiny. And I watched the second episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and boy, I've never hated a white man more than I hate John Walker. That's not exactly true, but at this current moment, anyway. You know? I don't want to spend the whole video talking about him because we met some extremely important characters in this episode. But we're going to start with John Walker. I'd love to do like a little Cap versus Cap situation, right? We'll put John Walker over here. We'll put Steve Rogers over here. We're just going to compare and contrast. I think that'll be a nice exercise for us. So first and foremost, Steve wanted to join the army effort because that's how he wanted to help people, right? He thought that that would be the easiest way for him to help people. It was all the rage at the time. And he went to several different recruiting places who all turned him down because he was too skinny, he had flat feet, he had asthma and other things, maybe scoliosis, I don't exactly remember. Too skinny, he wasn't going to cut it as a soldier, right? Whereas John Walker wanted nothing more than to join the military because he wanted to follow in his brother's footsteps. Not quite the same motives, right? And we have little skinny Steve when he gets sort of affiliated with early S.H.I.E.L.D. and he's training with the soldiers and Peggy's watching him. He throws himself on a grenade because he is fully prepared to die to save other people. Now, Bucky asks John Walker, have you ever thrown yourself on a grenade? Trying to throw him under the bus a little bit, right? And John very proudly tells him that he's done it 7 times because he has this enforced helmet and blah, blah, blah. It's like this special move. And that's not... Knowing that you're going to survive something to do it and then brag about it is certainly different than jumping into action because you're afraid people around you are going to die and you'd rather sacrifice yourself, right? We're seeing some stark contrasts between these two men, huh? Now, John said in the episode that he believes himself to be basically the government. He said that when he sort of pulled some strings to get Bucky out of his court-mandated therapy, which was why he was arrested in the episode. We're gonna get to that, of course. And Steve would have never said that. While John is this figurehead for the government, and likely a yes man to their wishes, Steve left S.H.I.E.L.D. when he didn't agree with what was going on. When the Accords happened and he did not believe that, he went and he nomaded himself with Sam and everybody else who was on Team Cap, of course. And he didn't want to fight, right? Whereas John became super adversarial when Sam and Bucky said they didn't want to help him, that they were not on his team and they were not interested in that. And more than that, I mean, that clearly says a lot about sort of his opinion of himself and then Steve being neutral good, right? John Walker also sees people as commodities. That was apparent when he talked about why Bucky shouldn't be in such a strenuous sort of schedule. He's too valuable. And the way that he talked to Sam, by calling Sam Captain America's wingman, right? His like Robin to Batman instead of being Captain America's equal. And it's very clear that John Walker sees Lamar Hoskins in the same way. That's his sidekick. Even though they're best friends, it's not quite equal footing. And even though he cares about him a lot. And that's to say also that John Walker has been set up to seem sympathetic to a certain type of person. And you can see all the ways that he is held up by the POC around him and in his life. His wife is POC, his best friend is POC, and that sort of sets up the idea that a lot of white people have. If they love POC people, they must not be racist. When that certainly isn't true. He's a symbol for the United States government, and just like every other white person, he benefits from the oppression of minorities. Just like you, if you are white, do. Just like I, because I am white, do. That's just the facts. It's not because we're malicious or we're racist. However, if you are not fighting against the problem, if you are not signing petitions, if you are not donating, if you are not marching, if you are not educating yourself, you're part of the problem. And that's just facts, right? John Walker doesn't seem like the kind of man who understands that he's part of the problem, right? I fully believe that Steve kind of grasped that. He never wanted to be a figurehead for that kind of stuff. He hated doing that. He hated parading around during the war, right? He just wanted to help. So, I mean, they're just wildly different men. And in fact, did you not feel super weird when you saw when they were fighting the Flag Smashers on those semi-trucks? First of all, that's the action I've been craving since we've been getting these Marvel shows. Thank you so much for that. Second of all, when he pulled out a gun that he must have had holstered and shot somebody as Captain America, did you not feel super weird about that? Now, I know Cap used guns when he was in the war in the first Captain America movie, but since then, he's just throwing the shield around and punching people. And I'm not saying he's not using lethal force. I'm pretty sure a Captain America punch to the head would kill you. And also, like, I think the shield could theoretically decapitate you thrown at, like, Cap speed. But it felt wrong to me. It felt like seeing Batman, like, use a gun, right? It was so strange to me. I didn't love it. And I think that was super intentional, right? I think the show is showing John Walker to be a white man with a chip on his shoulder. And I think it's safe to say you should be wary of white men with chips on their shoulders. You know. But let's not talk about John Walker anymore. I'm sick of him. I don't like his stupid face. I mean, the actor is fine. Of course, the character only. I want to talk to you about Isaiah Bradley. Isaiah Bradley is so important, not only to the history of Captain America, he is Black Captain America, but also to what is the show is setting up, like a lot of the racial tensions that the show is setting up, of course. They go and visit Isaiah Bradley. He is a Black super soldier, and he has no love for Bucky. But it's very apparent that the serum that was given to Isaiah is different than the serum that was given to Bucky, as Bucky has not aged, and Isaiah clearly has aged. Now, they kind of go into what happened with Isaiah, but not really, so I'm going to fill you in on that. Basically, Isaiah was one of like 200 Black soldiers who were all experimented on to try and recreate the super soldier serum. And Isaiah was the only one to survive. Then Isaiah takes Captain America's uniform. I always want to say outfit. I know that's not right. Uniform, puts it on to go out and fight and do good and be good. And then the government said, that's treasonous. We're going to put you in jail, as was seen in the episode. And let's not cut corners here. They put him in jail because he was Black and he put on Captain America's outfit, and that just like wasn't cool to them. Let's not pretend it's literally anything else. So, you know, that is a lot. And Isaiah he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to relive his racial trauma for the two of them. But I do hope that we get to see him again because, one, he is super important. I'd love to hear more of his story told to Sam, because I think him and Sam need to have a conversation. However, I would like to say that we met another really important character that you may not have realized was really important, the boy who opened the door. I believe that to be Eli Bradley. And if you don't know who Eli Bradley is, he's Patriot in the Young Avengers. He is the Young Avengers answer to Captain America, which is super cool. He follows in his grandfather's footsteps, minus the jail. So in terms of the Young Avengers, as I've been postulating since I knew we were getting the Mini-Moths in WandaVision, we do have the Mini-Moths, that's Speed and Wiccan. We have Cassie Lang, who is Scott Lang's daughter, who we know is an older teen now, and she becomes Stature. We have Kate Bishop as Hawkeye, and so now we have Eli Bradley as Patriot, and we're missing Iron Lad, and then Teddy Altman, aka Hulkling. I don't know why he's called Hulkling, he has nothing to do with the Hulk. But Teddy Altman becomes Wiccan's husband later on, and also he is half Kree, half Skrull, and he is royalty to both. So I think it's really easy how we get Hulkling in this situation. We saw the Skrulls come back at the end of WandaVision. How we get Iron Lad, a little bit more of a mystery to me. I'm very interested. We'll see. But, I mean, come on. There's no way that they're not setting up for the Young Avengers. I'm pretty excited about that. Look, I don't need to tell you. Look at me. I'm white. And so watching this episode was a different experience for me than it was for literally any POC person out there. But I want to talk a little bit about the scene after they visit Isaiah. Isaiah chases them out of his house, and Sam is upset, and understandably. You know, nobody knows about Black Captain America and the injustices that happened to him. And Sam, like Steve, is a good man who cares about injustices and cares about good and cares about people, right? And Bucky says he's been through enough. And so we have this really interesting dichotomy where Sam can understand and empathize with Isaiah's racial trauma. And we have Bucky, who can empathize with his victimization via the serum, right? And neither can understand the other issue, right? And so there is this sort of misstep between them, right? A lot of tension because they just aren't on the same page. And that is indicative sometimes of friendships. When you meet people in the world, they have a different background than you, a different race, a different ethnicity. There are different problems that you, as a person not of that ethnicity, not of that race, can't empathize with. You can only sympathize with. But I did think that Bucky saying he's been through enough said a lot more than it seemed like it said. I know. White people often ask POC people to relive their racial trauma in the name of education, right? Tell me about these terrible things so I can make sure I never do that. And that's not okay. You can't ask people to do emotional trauma for your education. You need to educate yourself, right? And that goes back to, seeking out internet resources, donating to places, local places that are helping to lift POC voices and help POC homeless people and et cetera, marching if that's your thing. All of those types of things. We have over the past few years here in America really faced some really troubling racial issues. Let's not pretend that we haven't, right? The Chauvin trial is going on right now. So, but I think that Bucky knew if he told Steve would have stopped at nothing to make sure that those wrongs were righted, that Isaiah was seen as a hero and that he was medaled and accoladed from here to Timbuktu. But that would have required a lot of emotional labor from Isaiah. And I think that by Bucky saying that, he sort of realized that in Steve's want to do so much good, there would have been harm too. And I think that that's really important for white people to think about when they're talking to their POC friends and family members. It's not okay to ask people to dredge up trauma for you. It's just not, And I have heard some complaints on the internet that the people thought that the cops coming up was like forced, forced racial tension, and I don't think that it is, right? I don't know where you're watching this show from, but here in America, we're having conversations about this because it happens all the time. They stopped the two of them, Sam and Bucky, because they thought Sam was getting aggressive with a white man. And when they realized who Sam was, they're like, oh, he's fine. And then when they have to arrest Bucky, they're so gentle with him. They're like, sorry, man, we got to take you in. I mean, don't tell me that that's not happening around the world. It is. It is. So I just, it hurt my heart to watch. It was really heavy. But I think that it's an important topic to broach, and you kind of have to think about the targeted audience of this and how they have to sort of take these really big and important issues and in some ways water them down. In some ways, some people might think they're shoving it down their throat to get people to understand. Because I think there are people out there who would feel sympathetic toward John Walker and not see what Marvel's trying to do to build him up. So I hope they don't pull any punches. I hope they just come out and say this guy sucks, right? Instead of sort of letting us just assume, just understand that he sucks, Questions I have left over. When will Sam be Captain America? Please, I need it. And also, I like the progression that Bucky's making, where he's kind of coming out of his poor me. Not that he doesn't deserve to the poor me. He's been through so much. But he's willing to relive some of his trauma by going to find Zemo, who, of course, one time triggered him to be the Winter Soldier and caused a bunch of problems, for the better good. And I think that that's important for his character growth, right? His hero growth. And Sam, of course, relatively along for the ride. Because it was Bucky's idea. He kind of thinks it's a bad idea. But, also Sam's smart, and he knows that if Bucky's willing to do this, it may be worthwhile. They also mentioned Sharon. She hasn't shown up yet, but I'm excited to see her because I'm hoping she gets a redemption arc and she's cool. So Let's see. I don't know. I'm really loving where this show is going, though. I love all of the, like, actual real-life tension. Like I said, I loved WandaVision, witches, false reality, all this stuff. Very fun, very good for me. But I think that a show like this is super important to inject some reality into superhero stuff, you know? We'll see. I'm very interested. Oh, the Flag Smashers. Before we leave here, we have to talk. I don't think Carly is actually the head of the Flag Smashers. I don't know who is, but I'm interested to know. And I also, how did they get this super serum? Who's making it, right? And I don't know that the stuff that they were transporting to those, like, encampments they were talking about is medicine. I think it might be super soldier serum, and if it is, that is super problematic, right? And does John Walker have the super soldier serum? I don't think so, but I also don't know. What about Lamar Hoskins? It also doesn't seem like it, but I also don't know. I'd love to see more of Lamar, learn a little bit of his backstory as well, and why he's so faithful to his friend who's very clearly a jerk. I'm interested in that as well, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see. There's so many unanswered questions at this point. It is episode 2, so I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but I desperately want to see more of Isaiah. I want to be properly introduced to Eli, and I'm interested to see what goes on with Zemo. Bucky's been in some therapy, so maybe he'll handle it well. But mostly I hope he punches him in the face. So, let me know what you're thinking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Please hit me up on Twitter at hello_Destiny. I would love to talk to you about it. Drop me a comment down below. What are you thinking about all of this? Do you think it's overdone? Do you think it's done well? Do you think they're broaching these very serious subjects in a way that makes you think? Yeah, that's really all I have for you guys this week. So, you know, until next time, I will see you guys same-ish time, same place. And until then, this has been Nerd News with Destiny.